Hello, class. My name is Victor Padilla. Today I'll be talking about why human trafficking is a global issue for my video podcast assignment. Human trafficking. What is it, and who is mainly targeted for human trafficking? While being in this class, we have spoken about many different types of global issues, such as drug-related, humanist activities, equality, major political issues that go on today. One very important global issue is human trafficking. According to the Webster Dictionary, the true definition of human trafficking is the action or practice of illegally transporting people from one country to another for the intended purpose of forced labor or commercial sex exploration. Targeted groups consist of children, young adults between the ages of 18 and 24. Children are subjected to this every day, such as these young adults. This is because they are considered naive. They want to believe what's best and believe what the next person is telling them to help them achieve the next goal, such as owning a business, making a lot of money, being put on quote unquote TV. That type of exploitation, that type of media, and the form of methods that some of these criminals use to help lure their people in to these sex rings, drug cartels, forced labor, and marriage activities across borders and different countries. So, how is human trafficking such a global issue? Well, with human trafficking, this can be done in many different ways. This can be done domestically, and this could be done with taking these personnel over to overseas countries that partake within the human trafficking, such as the Middle East, Russia, Mexico, and other low risk countries that need to make money fast. This can consist of sex rings, drug cartels, forced labor, and forced bondage, even. This is a multi-million dollar criminal industry. On average, it costs $90 a head for modern day slavery and about $120 per woman that is forced into forced marriage or forced working conditions with little to no rights, living upon horrible living conditions, and not having a single word that they can say. Individuals that are a part of this consist of drug cartels, sex rings, faulty businesses that promise the most but give you the less, slave labor rings, or even some religious groups that condone forced marriages or forced labor working conditions. They will try to lure these men, women, or even children in order to make a quick profit by sending them outside the country to be a part of these horrible acts. This happens among the U.S. every day, and this is taken over overseas where this is allowed in some areas. Some individuals have no clue even what they're potentially getting themselves into with the way that these criminals are able to manipulate and change the beliefs of these young adults, men and women, in order for them to come along with them and be part of these horrendous acts in the human trafficking ring. This is not okay. Some are even are drugged and forced against their will in order for them to be part of this ring and not able to understand what is truly going on and why things are going on. When someone is taken into the human trafficking ring and being forced against their labor, going to these other countries, they partake in many different types. There's not just one form of human trafficking, there's many. Some that are considered the high talking forms that are statistically shown, these are the ones that most men, women are being part of. 20 to 30 million men and women and children are part of the modern day slavery. Types of the human trafficking that they fall into. We have sex trafficking, which is when men, women, and children are forced into commercial sex, being held against their will. Some men and women will engage in domestic service or forced marriage, with being held against their will in a poor living condition with little to no rights and little to no proper hygiene and health environment that are able for them to forcibly be against their will in a marriage or being the modern day maid or slave in another person's house. Forced labor, this is what about 30% of men are forced into, with building houses, being forced to work in factories in horrible living conditions, and this is what men are subject to when they are human trafficked into these other countries in these poor living conditions, and this is how they can make little to no money, but with being part of this human trafficking ring, they have no way out. Child labor, this is the children group that are unfortunately targeted by the criminals that engage in the human trafficking ring. Child labor can consist of sex trafficking, forced labor, and drug use. Yes, someone will use a child to bring their drugs across from country to country, and not just children, but men and women too, against their will, moving pounds of different types of narcotics. According to the U.S. State Department, 600,000 to 800,000 people are trafficked across international borders every single year. Amongst this number, 80% of them are female, and half of that are children. So throughout time, many people are getting human trafficking, not knowing, getting kidnapped, getting drugged, forcibly being held against their will in order for these criminals to take them, move them from U.S. territory overseas, bring them from good living conditions to poor living conditions, treating them with little to no respect. And next thing you know, these innocent men, women, and children are subjected to the human trafficking ring. How to help prevent human trafficking. Usually within the first 48 hours someone is abducted, there is statistically known that they will be forced into human trafficking at this time. This can be any form of human trafficking, unfortunately. Most men and women and children that are taken are either by plane, boat, or car, depending on the destination they are going to. This is done in these poor conditions, such as moving them in cargo bays, the backs of planes, putting them in boxes, and this is how men and women are trafficked into international borders, international seas, or even domestically. But what can you do to help stop this and fight human trafficking? Know the signs and know the symptoms of people that can be subject to this. Some people that are subjected to the human trafficking will come up to have major behavioral issues due to the poor living conditions they're in, poor work conditions. If you are in another country and you see people that are heavily monitored and have no balance of their money, that usually can be a sign that they are subject to forced labor human trafficking. Or if you see little children in distress and always being told what they can do and what they cannot do, could be a sign of child labor or potentially child sex trafficking. And know what you need to do in order to avoid these type of situations, such as those random emails that you can get, the random person that wants to show you the new business they're making but allow you to travel with them. Be careful when you go into new countries and you want to meet people and you're going out, because you never know who you might meet and what they can be a part of. Thank you for listening on why human trafficking is such an important global issue. I hope that you can take away some of the knowledge and how important it is to read up on human trafficking and why this needs to come to an end and help prevent and fight these horrific criminals that are doing these acts and being part of these type of drug rings, sex rings, cartels, and forced labor, and stop this.